Welcome to the What Lies Ahead podcast, where I explore everything related to the hardcore scene and community. I'm your host, Chris Ruffini, and I couldn't be more excited to have my guest for today's episode. Rick Jimenez has been a prominent fixture in the hardcore and metal community, having been part of some of the scene's most influential bands, Subterfuge, Soldiers, This Is Hell, and currently Extinction AD, to name a few. He even stepped in for a show a decade ago to crush it as a vocalist for my band Overthrow. His band Extinction AD just released their powerful new LP, To the Detested, this past summer. I'd like to welcome Rick to the show. Rick, thanks for being here, man. How's it going, bud?
You got it, man. How are you? I'm psyched.
Doing well, doing well. So let's get started, man. I met you, I'm going to say back in the late 90s, maybe at Ground Zero, Deja One, or Dr. Shays, or one of those clubs back in Long Island, or if you want to call them clubs, but venues. You have been, as I said in the intro, a very prominent fixture within this scene, always, whether going to shows, a zine, I remember you had a lot of bands. So talk to me a little bit about a little bit moving back before that, how that started for you in terms of your interest in music from your first recollection of it, that then built into heavy music, that then built into all these other things of where you are today.
I don't think I've ever not been into music. My earliest memories of life are based around, music, whether it's just hearing the radio. I was born in 1980, and I remember my first major memory of music is loving Def Leppard's Pyromania. Even before that, Bringing on the Heartache, which is on High and Dry. Hearing on the radio, the Beatles are always on. The Beatles are still on the radio, I believe, if you listen to the radio. Mm-hmm. But Def Leppard was my first favorite band. Like I said, Bringing on the Heartache, there's the mix with the keyboard on the chorus, and there's the mix without the keyboard on the chorus. And like recognizing this type of thing at 3 years old. And I've told this story a million times, but stressing out, thinking in like 85 or so, having conversations with my sisters about, oh, what's your favorite song? And worrying about, do I love like Foolin', which is a single on Pyromania, Def Leppard. Do I love that song, or do I just love the video? Like there's a 5-year-old like stressing out over this type of thing. So my first, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was always, I want to be a rock star, which obviously as you grow up a bit, which I've never actually done. But as you get older, you realize it's not about being a rock star. I want to play music. So I've always been interested in listening to music, wanting to play music, be involved in music. Started playing guitar around 12 or so. Could not actually make sense of it in any way for probably about 3 years. And then all of a sudden it clicked and said, I understand how to play music. I understand how to write music. Play and write poorly, but at least doing it, as opposed to picking up my acoustic guitar and playing the E string and then playing the third fret and saying, oh, my finger hurts. Little by little, start your first, or not even first band, start playing guitars with people. 2 guitars and a bass player, a guitar, a bass, and a singer, till eventually.
At that point, Paul, how confident were you in your guitar playing? Or you just like, who cares? I want to get up and play.
Probably, I don't know if it was overconfident or just over enthusiastic. To me, over enthusiastic. To other people, probably until I turned 35, overconfident, which is fine. I'm the type of dude overall who I'm either a complete shut-in where it comes across like, oh, you're like a shitty guy who doesn't want to talk to anybody, but then very quickly to, oh, so this person that you just met's your best friend and you won't leave them alone and you won't stop talking and all you do is talk about what you want to do and what's going on and blah, 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 blah. So to me, it's over enthusiastic. I know sometimes it's like super obnoxious, and as I've gotten older, I've tried to tone it down. Sometimes, I can, sometimes I can't, especially if I'm, right now I'm caffeinated. I had a Monster Rehab before I played music with my friends before. But I knew I always wanted to be involved. And as soon as I started playing music with someone, even on a low level, got to start a band, have to start a real band, have to join a band, have to play in 3 bands. I play guitar. Oh, I'm going to get stuck playing drums. I could play drums. which I could not play drums for the first like 2 years I played, but I did it anyway. Oh, I could play drums. All right, so I'm going to play drums in this band, this band, this band. I'll play guitar in these 2 other bands. I'll do that for a couple of years, have to be in 8 bands at once. I'm playing in bands all the time. I'm going to go to shows. Oh, there's shows happening all the time. It's not just Metallica and Anthrax exists. There's like VOD. Oh, okay, cool. H2O. Oh, Overthrow. Shutdown. 1 for 1. Oh, I can go to a show every day for a week if I want to, or to a certain extent, or all weekend, up 2 shows on Friday, 1 on Saturday, Sunday matinee, and I'm going to go to school in the morning, maybe. It very quickly went from 0 to 100 once I realized I'm not trying to be James Hetfield or Kirk Hammett. I could just play and join whatever band, which is funny because then in my 30s, I'm like, hey, you know what? I am going to be James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett. But, I want to play in bands, so that means I want to go to shows, and I've always wanted to listen to music, so I want to be involved in shows. And the quick rundown, like hardcore and punk, you realize real quick that I could just be a part of it. I don't have to go and be a spectator at Madison Square Garden. I could go to Dr. Shays, and I could go to Ground Zero. I can go to the Center Ridge VFW, Deja One, all these. I can go and just be a part of it, and little by little, you just meet people because you're around. Sometimes there's a show with 400 people. Sometimes there's a show with 30 people. But the 30 people I'm seeing at that show, the smaller show, in some way, shape, or form, I think I might have saw them at the show with 500 people. So you just wind up becoming friends. And little by little, you break down the walls between showgoer and band person, which, you and I probably met a bunch of times before you remember, because you weren't Chris Ruffini to me. You were Chris from Overthrow. And I was like a fan of Overthrow before I was a friend of anybody in the band. And now we're buddies, and have been for years. So anybody listening to this probably knows this story and has gone through the same story, but it's kind of like retelling this story from everybody's point of view, even though they're so similar. It's like super cool to hear over and over again, because that's what linked us to begin with.
I agree.
The thing now, like I'm in my 40s, I'm 44. I'm going to be 45 this August. When I was a teenager in early 20s, oh my God, if you were in your 40s, you were so old. And the thing is, I don't even
I felt the same way.
I don't not think that now. So I do, I know that I'm so old, but I don't feel like I'm so old.
Same here.
So it's kind of, instead of, oh my God, I can't believe I'm so old, it's not that. It's like, oh, this is hilarious, because yeah, I am old, but it doesn't matter. I don't do anything that like an old person does. Even the oh, well, you live in a home and you're married and stuff. It's like, yeah, but it's kind of like a joke. Like I somehow weaseled my way into being this scummy punk that wound up in oh, now you're just a mid-40s scummy punk who happens to live in a house and can we're on video, which this is an audio podcast, but you could see here is where I'm pointing is a bunch of toys. There's an empty toy thing because I have a new one coming behind. Oh, other way. Yo, those are all comic books and other toys.
That's cool. Got all your vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah. I still do all the same shit I did when I was a teenager. I just found some way of doing it as an adult. And it's not I work so hard and sacrifice so much and have this good job so I can now do this kid stuff forever. I never stopped doing kid stuff and never really did the adult stuff, just enough to make it work. And granted, I lucked into marrying a normal woman who rocks.
But that's always important.
Yeah, it's the ideals I learned through just music in general, and then huge metalhead. Like I said, I was born 1980, so I got into real, quote unquote, real music through metal. And then I found punk, and then kind of really started to discover what's what. And then from punk found hardcore, and everything I've learned from all these musical styles. Is my dog going crazy? Do you hear that?
All good.
Okay.
All good.
Everything I learned from metal and then punk and hardcore and incorporated into this thing, what'd you learn? I learned to be as cool as possible, embrace all different types of people, be friends with people that rule. Uh, don't be afraid to be like super fuck offish to people who
Mhm.
suck. Um, and I want to live my life this way. This is what I want. And what I want out of life is just gratification. I don't care about money. I live in a capitalist society, so I use money, but it doesn't. It's not my religion. You know, I don't care what the number is in my bank account. If I know my bills are paid, and as a bonus, I could buy toys and comic books still, and I could support my music habit as a 44-year-old. Um, like I learned how to do all that through punk and hardcore and metal. Um, so I mean, long story short, or long story only kind of long, like that's my entire musical journey and the reason why I do music. It's just
No, and
the
that's awesome,
gratification.
man. And that's awesome, man. And that's really what it's about is talking about your story. And you've been around for a long, long time and still going and clear as day is. And if anyone who knows you, you hear it in your voice, is how passionate you are about the music since you were 5. Think about that, right? Like
Yeah,
even
it's
if it was
fucked
Def
up.
Leppard. Look, for me, I'm with you, man. Like I didn't start at 5 years old getting into Cro-Mags and Agnostic
Yeah,
Front.
yep.
Honestly, Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue led me there, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I built on that. So, but you're obviously very passionate about it. You were since the day I met you in the late '90s, and still to this day as we're talking on this podcast. So that's awesome that you have. And it's cool too for anyone listening who has a band, that the fact that you do play different instruments, you sing, you've had different levels of experiences with different bands, which leads me to the next part of our conversation. And anybody listening to this, hearing you, will know you from Extinction AD. They can know you from This Is Hell. They may know you from Soldiers. They even go back in time, will know you from Subterfuge, which blew
Yeah.
it up back in the day. So wanted to talk a little bit about that. You have a lot of other bands. If there's any I missed, honestly, man, just jump in with it. But like late, I don't know, I'm going to say a year ago, right? We're in 2025 now, maybe a year and a half ago. I recall you guys posted something on Subterfuge. You guys were jamming or getting together. But I know also Soldiers, we played with you guys Overthrow a couple of years ago, 2 years ago maybe, with Strife and Shutdown and Combust at
Yeah.
the old AMH. That was a fun show.
Yeah.
Fun show, man. And obviously This Is Hell. You guys played here and there, and Extinction AD is obviously running strong. So why don't you talk a little bit about some of those bands, and would you call some of them active? Obviously, Extinction AD is semi-active, and go from there.
You know what? I think every one of my bands that you mentioned is still active in some way, which is so crazy. Subterfuge was my first real band. We started right after New Year's in '96. We did not make any sense for probably about 2 years, and then it clicked, and then we found our sound. Whatever that sound is, we finally found it.
Mhm.
Started doing everything DIY because it was the '90s,
Right.
and and because we're us, um, it was hard to get shows with other bands. I don't want to say that we're established, but like other bands that weren't. Hey, we formed a month ago. We're gonna play a couple shows and stop playing. It was so difficult. So then we just said, instead of trying to get on these other shows all the time, we'll just do our own shows. So we did that, and we wound up building our own little scene, which expanded and expanded, and then of that scene came Backup Plan, Strong Point, Center Zero, Domain, um, even Antarabe. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of these bands kind of came from that, for us, Smithtown based scene. Active Rights, Side Effect, all these bands. And then we're playing with other bigger bands and like finally getting in touch with like, Christian McKnight, who's booking shows then, and like Race and stuff like that. Um, Subterfuge played until 2003, and it was like, we started the band as little kids and then ended as young adults because it was kind of on the, are we going to go for this or are we not going to go for this? Because we've been playing
Mhm.
for 8 years, but it was, like I said, a lot of it was as little kids. But we had done like a few little tours and stuff, and it was kind of, all right, we're not going to do this full time. So we ended Subterfuge. John Moore and I, who were in Subterfuge, started another band called Thieves and Assassins, which lasted for, we were in the band for a little while, and then we both left. The band kept going. And then I had joined This Is Hell. This Is Hell had started essentially as, hey, let's take the kind of the guys from a couple of different bands who all want to go for it and start one band together. Cool. So it was 3 guys from the Backup Plan, 1 guy from Scraps and Heart Attacks, and me from Subterfuge. And I played drums in Subterfuge. First time I ever played a drum kit was the first Subterfuge practice because it was a guitar player, 2 guitar players.
It really is actually.
Yeah.
Think about that. That's incredible. You know,
I would
that's
always,
what it's about, man. You know,
I would play drums like, I would buy drumsticks and just like play on my bed and like, all right, this part of my bed is a snare, this part is the cymbal and whatever. So, first Subterfuge practice, it was 2 guitar players and a bass player, but there was a drum kit there. So I said, I'll just sit behind the drums and play. And then I got stuck doing it for 8 years. And it was kind of, like I said before, that enthusiasm / arrogance that, I could play drums, I'll just sit down and do it. Like I said, I had no idea what I was doing for a good 2 years, just awful. But it didn't matter. It was, playing music, we're enthusiastic, creating something seems important, and period. So we sat down and created something, whether it was shitty or not for 2 years. To other people, it might have been shitty for 8 years, but we enjoyed it from day 1 till day October 12th, 2003. So I had moved over to guitar. We started This Is Hell. It was just, like I said, let's take the movers and shakers of these other bands that are kind of having a difficult time, put them into one band and start something fun. And that same thing went from like 0 to 100. It was a side project and then turned into, hey, let's go for it. And I kind of teetered between doing Thieves and Assassins and This Is Hell. So the first This Is Hell tour I didn't do because I was booked for tours with Thieves and Assassins. And on those other tours, as they conflicted, one thing felt right and one thing felt wrong. And there's other millions of other little things that point you in those directions, which seemed so important at the time. And now in retrospect, it doesn't, that's just it. Something felt right and something felt wrong. So after both tours finished, I'm always chatting with the This Is Hell guys anyway, because those were my buddies, obviously, and cell phones existed at that point. I said, yo, I'm going to leave this band. If you guys want, I'll hop back in. They said, oh, yeah. The end. That was it. So then it was like, okay, cool. So we got 2 weeks downtime, and then we're going on tour the day after Christmas. We're leaving Christmas night 2004, and we're going to be on tour essentially for the better part of 8 years at that point.
Yeah.
And same thing. That was like, yo, This Is Hell was a bit of, I don't know why I'm treading lightly saying this, because like I have like a few 2005 insecurities about this still, which I don't know why I'm worried about now. This Is Hell was from day 1 of, we're going on tour. This Is Hell was supposed to be a career band. Now, that doesn't mean let's fucking be rock stars and be on the radio. Not that. A lot of people thought that and talked a lot about that and tried to shit on us. And I don't know what, like it mattered. But I mean, when you're a kid, stuff like that matters, as opposed to, no, playing music and traveling rocks. We want to do that. The end. So in order to do that, especially in 2005, you have to make the decision to be a career band. You couldn't be a half in, half out. The internet wasn't then what it is now, where you could be the world's biggest band in hardcore and play 7 shows a year. And that rules for anybody who could do that, because you could also tour constantly if you want. Back then, you could only kind of make it work by touring constantly. Plus, we all wanted to do that, Right. So it was like, when I say career band, it has nothing to do with money, because we didn't, We didn't make
It's
any.
going all in, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going all in.
exactly. It was
Right.
either shit or get off the pot. And we weren't making any money with This Is Hell till probably the middle of 2006. And by making money with This Is Hell, at the end of each week that we were on a tour, so like at the end of playing 7 shows, there would be like, "Ooh, we could have $100 each," like
Yeah.
for us personally. Which,
Right.
in all actuality, I still think that that's sick. This Is Hell went on
Well, yeah,
for
by the way, especially with everything you have to put into it, if a van, if you're flying, it's just a lot of stuff. If you bring in somebody to
yes.
sound check, all that kind of stuff, it's expensive, and you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah, yo, I'm doing exactly what I said I didn't want to do. I'm like micro getting in the weeds of everything. So anyway, This
Oh,
Is
good,
Hell
man.
played
Oh,
for the better part of 8 years, and when we decided to give it a break, it was never let's break up. It's like we're gonna chill out for a little while, and some of us are gonna do different things. Subterfuge did break up in 2003. We played a benefit show in 2005. We did a straight up reunion show in 2010. This Is Hell played our last show as we're going for it constantly in June 2013. Uh, I had started Extinction AD about a month or so prior. Extinction AD played our first show August 7th, 2013, and we've been pushing it as far as possible ever since. I started Soldiers, which I was just the singer in 2005 or so. And we played actively till 2012. But same thing, we never broke up. We never played a last show. It was kind of like, yo, we're going to chill on this
right.
for a little while. Me personally, Soldiers turned into something that it started off to be the exact opposite of. Um, I'm a little human as it is. Like I'm 5'4" um, on my ID. I think I'm like 5'3 3/4, but so Soldiers was super heavy hardcore band, very New York hardcore sounding, and I never sang straight up in the front man of band. I wanted to do it so much because I felt like I had so much to say that I wasn't getting across just playing guitar in This Is Hell, and it was very much about empowerment and all of that, and it turned into instead of little human with regular size humans playing heavy hardcore and like empowerment, it turned into, oh, you're playing a show with a giant horseshoe because 4 people are beating each other up and scaring everybody else. I was like, this is the exact opposite of what I wanted, even though the band was like tough guy band. So I get it, I'm not stupid, but that kind
I
of
think
ruined the
also the
fun.
band is just you're heavy. I mean,
Yes, yeah.
you guys are just a heavy bands, like awesome breakdowns,
Ultra mosh, just
catchy.
meathead as hell.
It's that's gonna happen. If people are gonna show up, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna
Yes.
dance, man. They're gonna go. So
And the thing is, it's never like, we wanted to play and have it be madness. That was like so much fun. We played a show in Cape May, New Jersey once where the whole band stops and it's just a kick drum and a riff. And it was like, of course, it's about to pop off. And it always was. And it's like, dude, I'm getting like psyched thinking about it now. But this show specifically, I remember, I remember there was like 2 people just screamed as far as like, oh, I'm getting the fuck out of here, and
yeah.
it turned into like we were like, oh, remember that prison riot in Soldiers, New Jersey, which we always refer to Cape May as Soldiers, New Jersey.
Soldiers,
But so at that point we stopped playing, but we didn't break up. So much so that we played in I think we played in 2015, and then maybe 2018, and then again in 2022 or 2023. So none of these bands ever break up. To me, I know that's kind of the trope. You break up and you have a huge last show. That's what Subterfuge did, and it seemed right at the time. But now, like, I would never want to break up a band, I don't think, because why bother? I know I'm always going to want to go back to it because it's fun. Unless I'm like, oh, I hate this guy's guts and he's irreplaceable. Let's break up. But at that point, I don't even know if it got that shitty. I don't know if it would get to we're breaking up. It would just fizzle out. Anyway, talked for way too long. The thing is, we started jamming a little bit with Subterfuge about 2 years ago, just for fun. We probably went about a year without a practice, and then I was living in Connecticut, moved back to Long Island. Once I moved back to Long Island, it's like
I remember that post. I was like, I text you. I'm like, yo, we're doing this. You and
yeah.
you guys and I, because I don't think we've ever played together with Subterfuge. So
Subterfuge played with
did
Overthrow
we?
in the year 2000 at the Huntington Knights of Columbus.
Okay.
But Subterfuge played second. It was Strong Point, Subterfuge, a million other bands. On the Rise played. That's where I met the guys on the Rise.
Oh, wow.
Then another million couple of bands, and then Overthrow and Sky Came Falling.
It's a good show.
But dude, that's it. That's the only time we ever played
I
together.
don't remember that one, actually. All right. So we have, but I'm talking, in this timeline of era, we'll get there if you guys decide. So sorry, go ahead.
We were still a 3-piece at that point. So like it wasn't even like the official real deal thing. But little by little, like, hey, let's get back on. Let's keep trying to play. Let's try to play. And I think over the past like 6 months, 4 months, we've played a handful of times. We had a practice this morning at 10 a.m. Last night, I finally fixed my snare drum. I have like an absurdly small, like 12-inch piccolo snare drum. It's hilarious, and I love it. So yeah, the plan is, hey, let's just work on it. Let's get back to some level of not just old guys jamming with their old buddies for fun. Like, that's got to be the root of it. It has to be fun first and foremost. But like, let's play enough and get good enough that if we want to play a show, we can. Over the pandemic, I wrote a new Subterfuge EP musically. So it's kind of like, yo, let's put it out there that within the four of us, that we could record an EP if we want. Like, the songs are there. Fucking let's do it. I think 2 or 3 days ago, we finished not completed, but like finished working on the second of New Soldiers music.
That's great.
So it's same thing. No rush, no time limit, no goal really. But if we want to record, let's make it so we could record an EP, and then we have an excuse to get together and practice. And getting together and practice, and with our as buddies, it gives us an excuse to play a show, and it's just, that shit's fun. This Is Hell played. I think it was 2019. We went to the UK and played 4 shows. Over the pandemic, same thing. Like, well, I wrote a Subterfuge EP. I'm gonna write a This Is Hell EP. So like, we're in the middle of recording a This Is Hell record. We played a couple shows last summer. I think we played a show last December, or might have been this December. It could have been last month or a year ago. I don't actually recall.
It was recent.
We played a we played a show with Glassjaw in Brooklyn, I think.
Yes, you did.
And
that's right. That's the show you played. Mm-hmm.
A couple of offers are like hanging in the. We're gonna play some shows this year. Awesome. And Extinction AD is like the main deal, which I'm not good at singing, and it's difficult, and I'm okay at guitar, but it's difficult. So for some reason, Extinction AD, I'm playing guitar and singing at the same time. I don't know, like, one of the weirdest decisions I ever made. Like, oh man, both of these things are difficult. Let me do it at the same time.
Crazy full circle for you, though, if you think about it. Think of the bands we talked about in the beginning, that these metal bands that play guitar and sing at the same time, and to do that,
yep.
Which, by the way, must be so hard to do. It looks very hard to do that. So for somebody
like I said,
like me, I tried to play bass. It just didn't work out at all. So that was hard just to play bass, let alone sing and play at the same time.
So, yeah. And Extinction's been together for over 10 years now, and it's not like, it's simple to do both at the same time now. It's still difficult, but it's cool because I really, really found my footing in punk as a musician, and then hardcore, and then exploring all different types of hardcore, and then reintegrating like my roots in metal into this band and that band, this band. And then by the time Extinction AD started, I'm like, I just want to do a full-on metal band. And I wasn't planning on singing because I wanted to play guitar. And then it got to the point where I, already wrote all the lyrics and demoed all the vocals. And at that point, the past 2 albums I'd been doing a lot of singing on the This Is Hell records. So it wasn't totally foreign singing and playing guitar at the same time,
Right.
but it's very different. Like, oh, I'll sing, a chorus, I'll back up a verse, I'll sing a breakdown, to now I'm just the only guy. But it made sense at the time. It still makes sense now. It's just super difficult. But it is really cool that, going through everything is like a circle. And it's not just you do a 360. It like keeps going around and around, to the point where almost all the bands that I've named, Subterfuge, This Is Hell, Soldiers, Extinction AD, and then even leaving out any of the other ones I've done here and there, there's a little bit of each band in the other, to a certain extent.
Which is probably very natural, obviously. It's just that would happen. Of course.
Yeah, of course. And it's good to have different input from other members. So, like, I might be the one consistent member in all these bands, but it's cool that there's no barrier or limit on any of the band's sounds, even though there is like kind of a specific, I don't want to say go-to, but kind of like a signature finishing hold for a wrestler. There is a bit of that for each band, but it's cool that my first like real, not, oh, I really like this, my first favorite record, but my first like, ooh, I am in love with music, is metal, heavily based on the thrash side.
Right.
And like, oh, so that's my longest running consistent band, and that's my main thing as like a real grown up. But doing all these bands again at once is so funny, because I've always been like, oh, this is weird, I'm only in 2 bands right now. I felt like that up until like my mid 30s. And then for a long time, it was just Extinction AD. Now it's like Extinction AD is the main thing. This Is Hell's in the middle of recording a record and working on, some shows. Oh, yeah, we're doing Subterfuge a little bit. Oh, we're starting to get Soldiers up and running again a little bit too. Like, it's super cool.
So it has to be, man. Like, it's awesome. And think of what you just said. So the music that you're writing again now, or you just write because you enjoy writing, because obviously, going back to what we said in the beginning, you're passionate. You started with your writing. You wrote music for Subterfuge. You're Subterfuge. You're writing music. This Is Hell, and potentially are recording Soldiers as well. And Extinction AD's obviously just dropped a new album. I'm sure you guys are working on stuff as well. So that's 4 different bands, 4 different styles of bands, honestly, right? But at the core of it has you in there, which is so awesome, right? That you get to creatively express yourself in these different ways. You get to write lyrics for most of these bands as well, in terms of what you're doing. So what actually I want to do is, I'm going to give you 2, because one's hard. Out of everything you've released, Rick, you're Mount Rushmore. And Mount Rushmore is usually 4, but I'm going to do 2.
Okay, all right.
We'll do 4. No, what are your top releases that of all time that you feel you've put out and are most proud of?
Oh, it's so difficult not to say, well, I'll just pick one from each band.
Yeah.
But I'll try not to do that, because that might,
maybe have more than 2. Do it, obviously.
That's like the easy thing. Okay, it's usually a cop out, and like, this is the promo trick. But I mean, I honestly, and this also goes with why you're in 1,000 bands at once all the time. But like, newest isn't always the best, but it's always like the most fun. But
I'd agree with that.
I could say, at least from my opinion, that To the Detested by Extinction AD is the best record I've ever done. And I think there's a lot of factors into that. First off, it was the least overthinked. Didn't graduate college. The least overthinked record I've ever done. It's the quickest one to ever come together, and we purposefully did that. Extinction AD has always been an album and a half ahead. So like, all right, we're recording our first EP in 2014. In the studio, while we were recording that record, I was writing songs for our second full length.
Okay.
So like, it's always been that. With To the Detested, we knew we were recording at a certain amount of time, and the record had to be done a certain amount of time. And we were going to Europe in the summer. Said, we're going to Europe in the summer, have to record the record in the end of the fall to be done January 1st. We did not write a song until we got home from the European tour. At that point, it's like, yo, let's write 12 songs, let's cut 2, and then I'll write the lyrics for them, because I didn't want to write lyrics for songs that were going to get cut, because writing lyrics is like too intense for me to sit down.
I agree with you with that. I agree with you with that. It's tough when you put your heart and soul into things, and sometimes they're personalized too.
Yes.
And then it's just like, it's not going to make it kind of thing. So I agree with you with that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But doing all of that, being on a strict time frame, man, there wasn't a lot of second guessing. There was second guessing, but we move fast, especially me. Like, I move super fast as far as writing, editing. That's good. That's not good. Let's get rid of this, blah, blah, blah. And also, like, once I start, I won't stop. So essentially from the end of August of 2023 until January 1st, because everything had to be done, artwork, everything, I was sleeping 3 hours a day, because I had a full-time job, full-time life, wife, living in Connecticut, doing a lot of stuff on Long Island, and then writing, recording, editing, artwork, yada, 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 everything. So anyway, long story short, it wasn't just me at all. Like, a lot of time, it's never just me, but sometimes it might be, half of this is Rick, and then the other half is a mixture of the other guys, or whatever of that nature. This was so much of the other guys musically, which was so cool. And so that makes me like it more, because it's not just, Rick, same old shit. Like, I'll hear that sometimes in stuff that bands that I've been in, and I listen to the record and they're like, oh, I love this. But like, of course you love it, egomaniac. This is all you. So when it's, that's me, and that's where Tom comes in, that's where Scuzz comes in, that's where Ian comes in. Now, lyrically, I almost always write everything just on my own. All the other Extinction AD albums, obviously, it's always my personal take on whatever I'm writing about. A lot of what I write about is like, this happened in the world, is my take on this. That happened in the world, is my take on this. So this record isn't not that, but there's a lot of, this happened in my life, this is my take on it. So this is like the most personal I've ever been on Extinction AD record, which, again, cliche of bands talking about, but it's also true. There's topics that I've either shied away from on purpose, or just by happenstance, that I dove into on this record. And there's a song in this record, the last track, The Cure or The Cause, that I wrote lyrically with my wife, and I've never done something like that. That's cool. It's like, it was so gratifying. And, every time I hear that song, I don't hear me screaming lyrics we wrote together. Like, I'm hearing her point of view on a very specific situation with her. She's a breast cancer survivor. So not just that in general.
Doing well. That's awesome, man.
So kicking ass. I mean,
that's great.
I obviously, it was a huge deal for her, but like, from my point of view, it was like, she got through it like it was no big deal. And then going into like, not just the experience of that, but like the healthcare system based around that, which is very in line of how I feel about everything on Earth. So it's like, there's all these different types of things. And there's like, one edict we went into writing that record was, not 191 to 215 BPM constantly, which all around, I mean, like I said, we're a metal band, but we're more thrashy than we're not. But that doesn't mean we need to play the same beat all the time. And that's, that's my fault. Hey, I'm writing this riff. Oh, what? It's got to play fast over it again? Yeah. So like, making sure we
crazy tempo changes in this album in a great way. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And a lot of that was making sure we didn't do it, as well as, hey guys, if you're writing things, don't worry about like, it has to be fast all the time. And everyone's like, fucking thank God, finally. So all in all, like, everything about this record is like, it's the sickest. We did everything at home except for the drums and the mix. which is so cool. Like, I refuse to go into a studio and record anymore because it's so expensive. And like the way I'm
And also
recording,
time management, right? There's just no
dude,
time. Like we're dealing with that now, and it's just this time management of
yes.
getting in there, and the fact that you do that is incredible. Like honestly, like, and it's just so time saving, like such a time save of doing something like that.
Dude, not only that, when it comes to recording guitar, like I'm gonna quad all my rhythms and being like me knowing like what to press in the computer to like go to here, go to here, go to here. I could whip through it so fast as opposed to like, oh, go to that part where I'm like da 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 da, and the guy goes back and like, oh no, you didn't go back further. No, back a little more. Like, yo, no, just I'm gonna play 4 bars, stop, go back. I'm gonna quad it, go back, like that type of thing.
Right.
And then vocally, like the stress of going to a studio to record because oh, I'm paying for this and all that, or someone's paying for this, money's being thrown around. It makes me so nervous that like, oh no, I yelled 2 lines and my voice is gone, as opposed to, yo, I have the same mic I'm going to use in the studio. I'm going to do this at home and same thing. Like I'm just really fast. So anyway, it's the most, not that anything we ever did with Extinction AD wasn't genuine, but this is the most genuine. Like, yo, there's hardly any filter on this. Like we didn't analyze these songs to be like, oh, can this transition be a little like quicker? Like we did, but enough to like, oh yeah, we're done. Not,
Right.
oh, let's second guess it. Let's really like pick this apart. Like, no, man. And that's where it comes down to it, where more than anything, like I'm a punk guy. And I don't mean that by, oh, shit's sloppy. Oh, who cares? It's punk rock. I hate that excuse. Not that, but like, yo, energy is most important. The message is most important. Like, let's go in and fucking crush it and get out. And that's what this record is. So in all actuality, because it's new and everything I just said and took way too long describing, To the Detested, I think is the best thing. It is a thrash metal record. In my opinion, it's kind of like the most hardcore-ish of
Some breakdowns in
Extinction
there, man.
AD.
That crush, which so
Yeah, I mean, and it's got lots
a
of
lot
just
actually.
that like
Album's great.
thank you. Yeah, it's
It
got
is.
that like 90s influence. Like it's Machine Head, but it's Crumbsuckers, but it's obviously Metallica and Slayer. But when it comes down to it, like it's just Extinction AD. Like it's heavy and it's metal. It's unmistakably New York. No matter where we go, everybody knows that we're from New York, and a lot of that's probably like, oh, you're a metal band, and all you guys have short hair, and like you go to the gym. So like people visually, we get pegged as a hardcore band, and then we play. It's like, oh, you're kind of a metal band. Like, oh, kinda. I thought what call us whatever. Do you like it? Yes, awesome. You don't like it? No, also awesome. So if I had to choose, or are we doing 4 or 2? Let's
Whatever you think, whatever comes to mind with it.
um
You have a lot of releases, so it's
yeah,
going to be tough.
I
It's
know,
going
and
to be tough to just, then you're going to get off later and be like, oh, I should have picked, So no, go ahead, man. Whatever you're thinking.
Subterfuge, Nobody Gets Out Alive.
Okay.
Sounds awful, is so cool. I love that record. That record gets me so psyched. That's just like, oh, for years we were working at this. The record we put out before, we had found our sound, but we hadn't honed it in. Lots of like, oh, here's a hardcore song that's 4 minutes long. Like, what are you doing? By Nobody Gets Out Alive, like we're crushing. Like, here's like heavy, fast, catchy, melodic, just kind of that weird early 2000s Long Island hardcore era, minus the we have melody, but it's not the melody that like you think of when someone normally thinks of, like, it's not like Crime and Stereo style melody. The early 2000s Long Island hardcore is so weird. And I say that in a good way. That's like, where I really found my legs, but sonically it's so weird. But again, that record is just like not that anything isn't genuine, but that's just like fucking raw, genuine Subterfuge. So much so that like, yo, we're running out of time. We already ran out of money. We know we're breaking up. Let's just finish this record. Like, oh, we'll go to whatever studio will have us for free. So it's so unpolished, and every song like has a different sonic quality accidentally, and I think it's so like it just sums up the rawness of the band.
Right. And
Like
that's what
we don't,
makes it, obviously, and that's what makes it,
to me,
right?
yeah,
Even when I hear it, it's cool hearing the story of that because I didn't realize that, and that's what kind of makes it kind of cool when you hear it, you know.
yeah. Um, I am going to choose "Weight of the World," the third "This Is Hell" record, which is not even. I don't think it's my favorite, but in some ways it might be my favorite. That was when I started to put the crossover sound into "This Is Hell" a bit.
Yeah. And you do hear it in that. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, first off, every "This Is Hell" record sounds different, so much so that every time we put out a new record, the fans we got from the record prior is pissed. It was just awful business decision from "This Is Hell," but wonderful personal decisions. And I'm a musician first and a businessman never. So, but the time period around that, we had a lineup shakeup, and that was a very, very fun lineup for me. That was Travis and me, who've always in the band, and then Andrew Jones, who played bass and Soldiers, and Backup Plan playing bass, and Benny Mead, who's from England, and he was playing in a band called Dead Swans. He plays in like a million bands over there now. This glare is crazy, huh? Just lots of fun. And it was officially the time period where This Is Hell like wasn't quote unquote cool anymore. And I really enjoy thinking back like, oh, we're not like the cool band. We're not the flavor of the month anymore. So now what? Like, what do you mean now what? We go out and fucking crush it and have a good time. If people like it, cool. If they don't like it, their problem. And I love that. Like this band that's been around at that point, that was 2010. So we've been playing for 6 years, give or take. And like I said, we're a career band. And it's like, oh, you guys are a bit on a decline in popularity. Like, who fucking cares? We're not doing this to be popular. We're doing this because going out and playing shows rules. And because like I couldn't not write this song. And being that I wrote the song and I care about it, I have to go and travel with it. Otherwise, it only exists like for me. And in 2010, that wasn't good enough. So I guess even though I didn't want to stay in the motif of one album of each band, I guess I am going to do that. Then Soldiers, you know what? Soldiers Hit the Bricks is my preferred Soldiers record. We did End of Days, which is the full length on Trustkill. And then the EP Hit the Bricks on State of Mind. The Trustkill record was like within hardcore, not a big deal, but it was a record people liked, and we played shows and people came and liked the band. By the time we did Hit the Bricks, it wasn't as much like the band had, like any band, I guess, you're popular at a certain level and then less. So, but that was, again, at that point, we'd really found our sound. We found a better way of putting kind of like the hip hop influence in there. And there was always that like All Out War influence in there, but like, let's really go into that so much more. Like, dude, All Out War, one of the most underrated hardcore bands. Definitely probably in like my top 5 of underrated hardcore bands. It was just, that was a real fun time too. Like everybody in our friend group was like living in Huntington at that time. And like, hey, I saw this show on Friday, saw him at a party Saturday, saw him at a show Sunday, saw him at a bar Sunday night. And then I'll probably see you here and there throughout the week. It was just like a real big group of people. So like that time frame is super cool. And that's the same time frame as Weight of the World. This is Hell for the most part. But yeah, that was such a raw, like lyrically, like I never pulled any punches in Soldiers, and it was like, well, I'm gonna pull less punches, and now I'm the like, I don't know if you're a comic book guy, but there's that one storyline where Spider-Man gets 6 arms. It was like, well,
I know that one. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't pull punches with 2 arms, and I'm not pulling any punches with 6 now. Man, on Spotify, all those song titles are like incorrect. Like that makes me
really?
not only the song title's incorrect, like it's in the wrong order. It's and I every time that comes up on my Spotify, or if I like just go listen to it, I was like, yo, I have to email State of Mind and be like, yo, fix this, and I never remember. There's no chance. There's no chance I'm gonna remember when we're done with this. But yeah, that I would do. Extinction AD, To the Detested, This Is Hell, Weight of the World, Soldiers Hit the Bricks, and Subterfuge, Nobody Gets Out Alive.
Awesome. 4 awesome records. And honestly, again, what I said before, talking about you have different paths in the scene, metal, hardcore, doesn't matter, all different bands, different styles, all interconnected because you're at the core of it, obviously, and all awesome ones. So that's cool. It's cool to hear that, and good for you to kind of reflect on, honestly, the catalog you have, honestly, which is pretty amazing. Talk a little bit quickly about the new album, which we did get into, which was awesome that it's part of your Mount Rushmore and should be. The new album really crushes. It honestly does. And I remember texting you over the summer. I'm like, so you playing Desperate Grasp at the show and we're playing? And you're like, it's not in our set. That's when you did that little 2-week thing with Assault. And yeah. So how does Extinction AD figure out their set list? How do you guys come across your set list? Because you do have a catalog, and your favorite songs to play live with Extinction AD.
There's a very distinct era split of the band. We had Demo 2013, EP 2014, Faith Killer 2015, Decimation Treaty 2018. And we did so much touring on Decimation Treaty, so we were planning on putting out a record in 2020, but then COVID happened. We had a lineup change. We've had a few, but I mean, there's essentially the first core lineup is we essentially switched out a bass player, where Pete, our original bass player, is kind of like our unofficial 5th member still, where Tom, our bass player now, when we first started, was kind of our unofficial 5th member. So they kind of just swapped. But the era split, when COVID hit, we had to delay the record. So instead of like, every 2 years we put out a record, it was like, fuck, what do we do? And we wound up getting dropped from our label during COVID, as a million bands did. And we're like, fuck, what are we going to do? Like, should we just like give up? It's kind of like, we could either give up or we could double down. Like, I'm about to be 40. Do I want to look for a new record label when there's a global pandemic? Like, this is crazy. And then really quickly, I was like, of course that's what you want to do. You're too stupid to give up. And like, anytime I've like musically, quote unquote, gave up on anything, it's no, you threw a temper tantrum, had an overreaction, then you go back to it because you couldn't. It's like if I cut off my left arm and my right arm, like I couldn't possibly do that.
Which probably is most bands who are here listening to this is probably a lot of how they feel in their reaction with stuff like that, especially at that time, man.
Yeah, dude, because it was like we were on tour. We just started a tour with Fit for an Autopsy, and Thy Art is Murder. And we're like, great tour to set up that we're about to put out a record. Before the first show was over, they're like, tour's canceled. Like, after this show, everyone goes home. That pandemic thing, that's real. It's like, yeah, right. And they're like, nope. So we go home, and then everyone's saying, the last time there was a global pandemic, it was 18 months before anything happened. I was like, what? No. And then, we go home, and like a couple of days later, like, global pandemic are probably going to be 18 months till things open up. So we all go through that, and we have this discussion. And it very quickly is like, what are we talking about? Like, we are these 4 guys in Extinction AD. Like, of course we're going to just double down. So Ian, our lead guitar player, said, I got all this recording equipment. Why don't we just write an EP and put it out ourselves and kind of shop that around as like a new demo? We could record remotely at that point. Everybody has their own little rigs. So we did that. We wrote 3 songs remotely from each other, and then recorded them that way. Had this EP, and we're like, oh, cool. We're gonna, put it on the internet and everything. Now Travis, the singer of This Is Hell, is the Extinction AD manager, unpaid manager.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
yeah,
Great
yeah,
great
yeah.
that he does that. I mean, that's awesome.
As if being a manager isn't a thankless job enough as it is,
Yeah.
especially like, we're Extinction AD, we're not, Oasis. So like by manager, it's
Oasis.
like I'm gonna send emails and help you out as much as I can. And even if he was a paid manager, it's like you're not making any money with
Mm,
Extinction AD. So it's essentially like, oh, our good buddy's gonna help us out because like he enjoys being involved in the business side of music. And like I said, that when it comes to business, music or otherwise, like if there was a grade lower than F minus, I would get that. Um, so he's like, he takes the EP, and before we even put it online, he sends it to this guy, that guy, this girl, everybody on earth that he thinks is proper for us. And we got a bite from a couple of different labels, but Unique Leader Records was one of them. We're like, yo, this is like, now, no shade to Good Fight Records, great label. They're more of a hardcore label. They didn't really know
mm,
what to do with us, and we didn't know how to capitalize on their name. Unique Leader is a big record label for us, and in our wheelhouse that like, yo, they do heavy and extreme metal, but we stand out enough to just not be just another band on their label. So they're like, yo, this EP is totally cool. Let's do a record. They're like, yo, instead of just doing a record, you want to release this EP? It's, oh, well, our budget for the record is only this. Don't worry about it. You can have this EP for that amount of money. Like we took like I know talking about money and like music business is kind of weird, but like Unique Leader gave us more money than we deserved for our last couple of records anyway. So it's like, the money we got to record our first full length with Unique Leader was too much anyway. So they didn't have to like give us more for this
right.
EP. It's like, yo, it behooves us to like, yo, take this EP for free and put it out, which they did. So anyway, at that point when we decided, yes, we're gonna go for it, that's when we made the decision, yo, let's incorporate some other non-typical thrash elements into the music a bit more. Let's embrace those elements a bit more. We became less Metallica based and more the Four Guys in Extinction AD based. We started playing in not just D, but in C sharp standard also. So anyway, by the time we wrote that EP, put that out, and then Culture of Violence, the first full length on Unique Leader, came out, it was almost like a different era of the band. So a million left turns down the street of where we started discovering the set or figuring out the set list, we kind of stopped playing anything pre 2021 from 2021 on,
Right.
just because it's like, well, we have a new EP and a new full length by the time we're able to tour again after COVID lockdowns. We have all these new songs. Like we have, that's 14 songs to choose from. We normally play about 7 or 8 songs in a half-hour set anyway. Like, yo, let's just play all this new shit. And then another EP, Ruthless Intent, was January 2024.
Yeah, somewhat recent. I mean, hitting a year
Yeah.
now, right?
And then To the Tested, August 2024. It's like, yo, so we have over 30 songs from 2021. So it's would be hard pressed to go back further. Not that we haven't done it, but it's kind of like, yo, I don't think if we played any of those songs, people would really know what the fuck we're doing at this point anyway. Like after COVID, it was almost like a restart for everybody, but
True. Very
especially
true.
Extinction AD. Like the types of tours and the quality of tours have kind of like elevated to a certain extent. We've done a handful of like rad tours with Havoc. We did a Suicidal Tendencies run. That's all before COVID. But the crossover from pre-COVID Extinction AD showgoer to post, there wasn't really much of a crossover. So a lot of times it's trying to balance. We want to play the newest stuff possible, but some of the older stuff is a lot of fun. And also don't want to bum out someone who, oh, I saw you guys on the in 2021. I like the new stuff. I don't know the 2024 stuff yet. I came to see you. Everything you played is like 2 months old. Like, that's a bummer. So trying to find that balance. A lot of times the guitar tuning dictates it. So it's
Sure,
like,
especially what you
all
just
right,
described, right?
yeah,
So
like we have 70% of our songs are in C sharp and 30 are in D. So like let's play a couple of songs in C sharp. We're gonna do a guitar change. Okay, now we have X amount of songs in this
makes sense.
tuning to choose from. And that's kind of fun sometimes because then it forces us to entertain songs we wouldn't normally entertain. So it's like we're not changing guitars for just one song.
Hmm.
Plus, we'll do the thing where like we play 3 songs in a row, take a break, play 2 songs, take a break, play 3 again. So it's like, all right, we want to play 2 songs in D. Let's pick one more song in D and cut one song in C sharp.
Which sounds like what you did when we played together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I remember watching you guys, and it was like definitely what you're describing occurred, which
yeah.
helps. It would help you do it. It would get through the set with it.
And a lot of times it's, I just physically cannot sing and play this song at the same time, which is like a bummer, but it's also like, that's reality. Some of these songs are like hard to sing and play at the same time. Some of these songs are like, I cannot do it. Like we can go up there and do it, but it's going to be awful. It's like, what's better, playing a song that we really want to play, but it sounds like shit, or like, well, this song's also cool and we could play it well. So that'll kind of dictate it. And things go in and out. The first tour we did on To the Detested, we were opening with Desperate Grasp. I always feel like a band, when they put out a new album, if they open with the first song on the new album, for some reason, that's like, dude, that's a power move. And not just like from a perception, it's power, but it's like, it's so fun and fresh for the band. When you guys put out React, you were opening up with Dead Last.
We did. Yeah.
And it's like, that's the way to do it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, it's our record release show. It's before the internet really. So
Mm-hmm.
you've not heard this song on recording. Hey, here's the first song on a new record. Here's our first song of this show for releasing this record. Here it is. And like, if you're confident enough to put that song first, you should be confident enough to play that song first at a show, knowing that people are going to be like, I don't know this song, but I'm going to smash someone.
True.
And then, like we talked about earlier, we stopped playing that song for one tour. And it was just, we just played this for a full tour. It's so hard to sing and play at the same time. I just need a little bit of a break. So we took a break for 2 weeks. And then every show we've played since, we're opening up with it again. But it's also, there's a... what type of show are we? If we're playing like a one-off show, we might, to a degree, cater it, the set list, a bit to what we think the crowd is, and not in a like placating the crowd type of way. Like it's a mosh metal show, so let's only play our mosh songs. But well, it's a mosh metal crowd. Like, well, let's open with a song that we think is ultra moshy. We obviously love it. We wrote it. So.
Right. Of course. That's cool, man. So it's cool. And to me too, that's part of what I'm want to do here is I like hearing about you have a significant musical background. So it's awesome hearing that. And then also hearing about, I always was intrigued of how bands go about formulating their set list.
Yeah.
I just find that very, very interesting. We're almost wrapping up here. A couple things, but I did want to ask you this. We started with you younger. So if you could right now go back in time and speak to yourself at 16 years old, what advice would you give yourself? Musically and personally.
Personally, it is great to take things seriously because it matters and it's important. Hey, 16-year-old Rick, please chill out a little bit. 21-year-old Rick, seriously, chill out. Like, enjoy it. Obviously, you're doing it because you enjoy it, but like, not everything is so make or break. And like, I pity people I've been in bands with because I'm so, what? No, you got to do this. You got to do this. Like, you mean you're seriously only want to practice 3 times a week? Like, I guess you're not even taking this seriously. Like, chill the fuck out. Like, I really, and that goes into This Is Hell days. It wasn't, I didn't get this message 100% until Extinction AD started. Like, fun first and foremost,
right? With experience and all that. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm glad I got there. It's a little embarrassing that it took 35 years. But at least I got there. Um, dude, the attitudes and the like temper tantrums I've thrown because of like the sound guy. Ah! And I don't think I ever got to like an well, no, I can say I never got to an Axl Rose, level. Um, but there's moments, specific moments that I look back on and I'm like, oh my God, like, yo, you're a shitty guy. Grow up. You're acting like a stupid child. Like, you're in Australia playing on a festival tour. And even though you're having the time of your life, why are you getting so mad that like I'm having a hard time hearing my guitar? I get it. I get it. But also like, you're just playing guitar, dude. Like, you know, go to your amp and turn it up a little bit more. Like you're gonna like during like a break between songs, go over to the sound guy and be like, look, man, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but I can't hear my guitar. Yo, why would you treat a human like that? Are you an asshole? And the answer is yes, Rick, you are an asshole a lot of times. Um, don't don't be that guy. It's so crappy. Dude, there are times, and this is like again embarrassing to admit, but also like whatever. Um, During playing in exclusively hardcore bands. Now, the interesting part about what I'm going to say is the times I was like this, I never got clocked for it, and the times I wasn't like this, people would bring this up as if this is what I'm doing. I'm like, you're crazy. I did that when I was a kid. Um, there was times where I would let the competition vibe get into my head and like, yo, the second music starts to be competition in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not talking about like, oh man, like me and my buddy, we submitted for the same tour. Like, I hope we get it. That's fine. But like other things like scoffing at somebody else's success or like, I want to play this Bane show and like, oh, this other band got it. Like, fuck them. Like, even if it's just to yourself, like corny bullshit. And that's kid stuff. But at the same time, like, just being real, it would be nice if I could have told myself when I was 21, 22, like, yo, the second that comes into your head, and it wasn't like I didn't have joy for my friends excelling. I had probably 95% of that. And then there was like 5% of times that there was competition and like sourness, but that 5% bugs me now still because I know a lot of times it wasn't internal 5%. Sometimes I would voice that 5% to someone else. And God, that's so embarrassing, especially somebody who like even back then fancied themselves like an ambassador for a hardcore and like hardcore could be and is supposed to be.
I agree.
But
I agree with you, man. I agree with a lot of what you say, and I had the same kind of feeling with a lot of things. And I think the biggest thing is it's like you slow down and be in the moment, right? And when I remember feeling younger, having those feelings, and I say that now, it's like what we're doing now is I'm enjoying the moment.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's going to be my last time. I'm
Exactly.
just enjoying it. Where back then I was just going 150 miles per hour for what? And it's just really enjoying what you do, and that's the biggest thing. And you live and learn with that kind of stuff, man. So I absolutely appreciate what you said and agree. So yeah, but in terms of actually we're gonna wrap it up here a little bit. But like bear with me with this. This is my second
Yep.
time doing this, but what I like to do is it's a first answer that comes to mind. I'm gonna either ask a question or I'm gonna give you like a this or that, and you pick which one, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap it up, man. So your favorite all-time place to play as a band in a band, which you've been a lot of places.
Oh, um, oh, you know what? Austin, Texas?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what? I was like thinking about it, and then like you said, yo, don't overthink it. Even if my opinion could have been different 20 minutes ago, and it might be different in 5 minutes. Yo, Austin, Texas, fucking rocks, man. It rocks.
60. Yeah.
I don't recall having not fun there. Plus, the last time I played in Austin, Texas, was like there was so many different variables that made it like, oh man, this is so bitchin'. So hey, Off the cuff, Austin,
awesome,
Texas.
awesome scene. I agree. Favorite metal band?
Metallica.
Agreed. I'm with you with that. Favorite hardcore band?
Ooh, if okay, I defeating the purpose of the question. So let's see, bam, 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 bam. If it's first band you got into or favorite band that when you got into, like, oh, this is hardcore, Minor Threat. But I do draw the line. Yes, to me, Minor Threat's a hardcore band, but I got into Minor Threat more like punk. Right. But if you just say that is favorite hardcore band, Sick of It All.
I'm with you. They're great. Minor Threat's great too, obviously. All right, little Long Island club history, we'll call it here. I'm going to call it clubs with venues or whatever you want to call it. Deja One or Dr. Shays?
Deja One.
Yeah, the other place was awesome. Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning?
Ride the Lightning.
Oh, okay. Far Beyond Driven or Vulgar Display of Power?
Oh no, no. Vulgar Display of Power. Yep.
Yeah, that's like I'm with you. They're both great, actually.
We argue about, or not argue. We converse about this for like cumulatively hours in the van. But I mean, like, oh, Wednesday, 25-minute conversation. Friday, 15-minute conversation. Sunday, hour-and-a-half conversation. It's ridiculous. But vulgar. Yep.
Vulgar. So vulgar, actually. Attending wise, what did you enjoy? Warped Tour or Ozfest?
Yeah, I've never been to Ozfest.
Oh, interesting.
Like, in some ways, like, you know what? In some ways, Ozfest would be up my alley more, but the upper card of Ozfest, historically, probably up my alley. But Warped Tour, so many bands, the first time I saw them was Warped Tour. First time I saw Sick of It All, Warped Tour.
Oh, great.
Descendants, Bad Religion, No Effects, and then bands that, I had seen and then seen again at Warped Tour. First time I saw Pennywise, Warped Tour, VOD, H2O. Yeah. So there it is. First Warped Tour I ever went to, I wore a white Alice in Chains dirt shirt. Nice. And because it was at Randall's Island, when I got home,
I'm like, man, it was been all like brown after that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I just gotta wash it.
I remember like you dancing to bands and like I come out, I'm talking to my friend, I smile, I'm all like, they're like, bro, you look like you have French fries. Like, it was all it was just the dirt would kick up on you at Randall's. All right, most influential Long Island hardcore band.
VOD.
Yeah. All right. So,
but that's so difficult because I could go down the line for hours. But like, okay, VOD to me, like that's the bar. And same thing, like years and years of being like a fan, like becoming buddies with those guys is like, oh man, that's so cool. To like, oh no, this just rocks because like, I can't believe these guys are, even though we could be buddies, but I don't think of myself as a peer. And there's no pretense with VOD. As an 18-year-old, everybody, I remember being like, oh, that band's so pretentious. They think they are who they are, which is by the time I met those guys, I was like, you're crazy. There's no pretense with VOD. Sorry, but like Overthrow and Perception, so important to me. It's so funny because like Perception was kind of in the grand scheme of things now.
They were good guys.
Yeah, but they were in and out. We went to record the first full length or the first Subterfuge EP with Fasulo because I was at an Overthrow Perception show and I met Al Montage.
Al Montage, yeah, good guy, yeah.
And he gives me a Perception demo and he's like, yo, Overthrow Perception, they record with this guy, East Coast Recordings. You got to go here. I'm like, oh, okay. So we always start recording with Chris Fasulo. And I'm telling like, yo, love Overthrow, love Perception. He gives us the first two Overthrow demos. And he's like, I have this unreleased Perception full length. I was like, burn me a copy of that.
Never came out. That was so good. It was this metal kind. It was so good, and it never came out. No one ever really got to hear it, unfortunately.
So, well, me and Mizella from Subterfuge like live and die by that record still. Now it's become almost like an inside joke between us, more me, from that record and then the demo they did afterwards, because I wound up meeting the Perception guys also, and they used to come and play in John Moore's basement with us.
Cool.
I have lifted no less than 4 lines lyrically from Perception and have put them in prominent moments of Extinction AD.
That's a cool
songs.
Homage. That's awesome. That really is, though. That really is to them. Like, 'cause I wish that stuff would have got out there that people could have seen, but then they stopped playing and no one ever did. But I'm with you, by the way, with VOD. Like I am. And I think there's like, Silent Majority, I think also neglected. You could go down so many roads with it, but I'm with you with VOD, which leads to my next one. VOD self-titled or imprint?
Self-titled, but I mean, that's like, hey, Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning, or you could have named any of the first, at least to me, 5 Metallica records. But yeah, I would choose self-titled, but imprint. I mean, imprint opened up a whole new world.
Everything. It really did.
Just to go back real quick, if Perception released that full length now that they didn't release in 2000, just with a little bit of like production tweaking. You could put that out now and say, oh, here's a new band. And people will be like, wow, this new band is like fucking bonkers.
That's true. That's also, let's go I know you're a big wrestling guy, and I've always been too. I'm not into it as much as you are, but I'm into it. My 10-year-old is super into wrestling. Psyched about Saturday night's main event tonight. Nice. All that stuff. So quick one. So I'm going to go old because I wore the shirt on the album for React, but Rock or Stone Cold? Rock or Stone Cold?
Stone Cold all day.
Punk or Reigns?
Punk.
Yeah, he's the best. Favorite current wrestler?
Ooh, oh, you know what? Because I'm so enamored with it still. Just debuted last Monday on WWE, Penta.
He was good,
dude. So I know Penta's had a long career, but I know Penta from AEW. And cool. But AEW just didn't do it for me. But I know him from there. So it's not like, oh, Penta, you've never seen him before. Comes to Raw, and I'm just like, oh, do I need to buy Penta's new shirt? Like, yo, you're fucking 45, and you're watching. I was watching it while doing a workout. I have a TV in my gym. And I stopped working out to watch this match through the commercial and entertained spending $45 plus shipping on a t-shirt, which I didn't do. I'm going to wait till a Royal Rumble sale. But yeah. Right this second, Penta is my favorite.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. It's WWE's. I really think it's really good again. They have a lot of guys. It's fun. It's fun to watch again. All right. A few more here. A band, because you've played with a lot of bands, festivals, some bands that you're super influenced by that you talked to, that you played with, but a band you wish you played a show with.
It is crazy that my bucket list, I have more checks than not. Now, a lot of that's cheating because it's festivals, but sometimes it's touring festivals.
That counts.
So, the fact that I could say that I've played 7 shows with Metallica, awesome. 7 shows with Slayer. I think I played like 12 shows with Anthrax. I had never played with Cro-Mags until like a year or so ago.
At AMH, right? With Extinction
AD. And dude, that was my favorite spectator experience since 2013 at a show. We still have never played a show with Megadeth. We were supposed to, and they dropped off.
You were. Oh yeah, I
never played a show
that. And okay, so it never happened.
Megadeth.
Yeah, that'd be a cool one. They're great. I love Megadeth too. Old Megadeth. I like the old stuff.
I like all Megadeth, and we won't get into this conversation. Separating the guy from the artist from the art is harder and harder to do in today's world. I could do it with Mustaine still, where like, oh God, just shut the fuck up, you're such a stupid prick. But like, oh man, Megadeth is
super talented, man. Super talented.
I would have loved to have been able to play with Queensryche with Jeff Tate. We've played with Jeff Tate playing Queensryche.
Still cool.
But
awesome.
yeah. The one remaining, the biggest remaining one is Megadeth.
Megadeth, awesome. Yeah, they're great. In fact, you put Metallica and Slayer in festivals. That's
Oh,
great.
dude, it's
Your
insane.
all-time favorite Long Island show, I guess, that you played and that you went to.
Um, Favorite show I played, all time favorite Long Island show is October 12th, 2003, the final Subterfuge show at the Hungarian Hall
That's on
with,
YouTube, right? That's
I
bonkers.
think some of it is,
I
yeah.
think I saw that. Yeah.
Um, on the Rise, Center at Zero, Backup Plan, Subterfuge, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
And it was like, we did a show the day before at TGIF, Sights and Sounds. And I think that was Straight from the Path, Antarabe Reformation, Subterfuge. I'm not positive. It might be a mixture of those two somewhere. But it was like, hey, we got to pick our closest buddies at the time. But that second show was like dudes that were integral in my hardcore journey and Subterfuge. And it was like up until that point, that was the craziest Backup Plan set. Center Zero would stop playing at that point, but we'll play this show because they were like our best friends. On the Rise, like I said, we both met at that show that we all played, and it was like, yo, we're like punk hardcore bands, and every band we play with is always more on the metal side. Like, let's be buddies. And then Mike from day one, I wore an Agnostic Front shirt to that show, and he kept pointing at my shirt. And this was like years before he was an Agnostic Front. It's like, so me and Mike Gatto's relationship started from a mutual appreciation of Agnostic Front. And then he wound up being able to join the band. Now he's been in the band for fucking 3 decades.
Right.
And This Is Hell got to tour with Agnostic Front in Europe with Mike, and it was
That's
like,
cool.
yo, this is like, it's crazy to think about shit like that. Like, we met as like stupid kids, now we're in Europe, 15 years later playing with Agnostic Front. That's probably my favorite show that I've played and in a way attended. But as a just attendee, I wonder if it's Sick of It All at the Center Reach VFW.
With Kill Your Idols and Indecision, that show was great. That was a good one.
Did you guys Overthrow played the Hatebreed show at Center Reach
Yes, that was our
VFW?
record release for React.
For React,
awesome.
okay, yeah.
Oh
God,
yeah, yeah. I think
Puya is so
Denied
sick.
played that too. I think Denied played. That was fun. Center Reach
Denied,
VFW was another
yeah.
underrated venue, bro. That was a great place. I call it a venue. It was a VFW hall, but it was so massive.
It was
and big,
huge. Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I bought the gray, black and red Overthrow React shirt. It was like
with the Star Trek logo.
Oh, the Star Trek font. Yep. Size XL. Why? Who knows? Because 2000.
Because 2000, right? Yeah, those are good ones, man. Honestly, awesome. It's awesome having you on here, and all the stuff that you're talking about just ties in your musical journey, where you're at, and you're still going strong and have and really with no end in sight, which is awesome. So wrapping it up, Rick. Thanks for being part of the podcast. How can people connect with Extinction AD?
Any social media, it's always just at Extinction AD. That's on Instagram, X, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook,
TikTok, if it's available now, and all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm not good at the internet, but it exists. And I do my best. Actually, on YouTube, we do like a pseudo television show called It's Go Time, You Asshole.
I meant to ask you about that. Yes, you guys, that's cool that you do that. Cool. Yeah. Talk. Sure. Let people know where to find that.
As a band, we have so much fun playing and writing, but message-wise and at the show, lyrically, we're so serious. That's the point. We need to get it out and express it, whether it's personal or my views on the world and all this stuff. It's very, very serious. We try to make sure people have fun at our shows, but I know it's easy because I do talk about what songs are about on stage, which people don't do in metal at all. And I find it even less and less in hardcore. And I'm never going to stop doing that. But when we do this YouTube show, it's pure bullshit fun. It's at least 3 of us, sometimes 4 of us, where we have a surprise energy drink, and we find a specific topic, and we get super caffeinated. 2 of the other guys usually get like wasted, and we just bullshit. And
that's great.
It's like, we usually record for about an hour and a half, and then I edit it down to like 20 minutes. So it's like, hey, nothing but the hits. It's all like fun and stupid visuals because it's YouTube. But dude, it's so much fun. And it's like another like, hey, we're, a multi-layered band, even though it's like, well, your one layer is ultra serious and playing fast and heavy metal. And the other level is like 4 old guys being assholes with energy drinks, acting like children. But like, yeah, it's fun
awesome,
as
man.
hell. So,
awesome.
yeah, if you like to laugh at cool stuff and inside jokes that you may not get, but then it becomes something you'll get. Dude, the show is worth 15 minutes of your time. That's on our YouTube channel. I think there's like 15 or 20 episodes now. It's a lot of fun.
Well, obviously, everyone check that out and hang tight. I'm gonna just end off here, and then we'll wrap it up after we're done here. So, Rick, appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to the What Lies Ahead podcast, which is available on all streaming platforms. For more information on future episodes, you can go to my Instagram account and follow at @WhatLiesAhead_podcast and on Facebook by searching What Lies Ahead podcast. See you all on the next episode.